Okay, after that first presentation, my name's Kevin Lee. I'm the Vice President. I wanted to spend a little time talking to you guys today about this connecting human identity with people identity in the cloud. My company, Everything, we're a cloud-based Web of Things software platform that was founded on this notion of being able to create a digital life for every physical object in the world. So this notion of being able to, if you can't find your keys in the morning, to be able to Google them, so that your keys or your shoes or your wallet isn't just connected to the internet, but it's connected directly to you and your preferences and your identity. So a lot of what we do, creating identities in the cloud and referencing them to specific products is kind of a cornerstone of what we do. So like I said, I'm the Vice President of Corporate Development, and I do want to mention that I work for a software company, but I'm responsible for global partnerships and business development in the Americas. So I am not, despite what many people confuse me for sometimes, a software developer or an engineer. So I wanted to put that out there. If there are any technical questions, I'll leave some time at the end. I'll make sure to capture them, and you can find me after, and I'll make sure to address that. So. What I thought I'd do today was spend a little time just giving you some examples from the market. Like I said, I'll give you a little bit of context and talk about what it is that we do and how we create these connections between products and things. And then I'll go into the approach that we and some of our customers take about how to build applications around IoT and around Web of Things specifically. And then I thought I would leave you with a few thought starters at the very end around, a lot of what we do today is focused around using social media identities, connecting them with products, but realizing that there's a great opportunity kind of in the business world with things like what Ping does to kind of create opportunities to also connect with products. So again, in short, Everything, just to give you the context and the background here, we make products smart. So we work primarily with product manufacturers and brand owners to help them connect their products to the web. Once they do that, we provide the toolkit for them to be able to create different applications, mostly for consumer engagement and supply chain tracking, which enables them to directly engage with consumers through mobile devices. It enables them to collect and record and analyze, who, what, where, when, how consumers are using and purchasing their products. Or it enables people along the supply chain to be tracking and collecting all the data all the way through the last mile, right? So from the manufacturing plant all the way through to the consumer's home. Just to give you a sense for what this means, and I know I'm not going to talk about my company too much, but there is a little video here that it's just about a minute long that just shows you what the potential is.
It's impossible to imagine life today without the smart digital technologies that connect us. And yet, when it comes to the physical things that we rely on every day, we still make do with products that are essentially dumb, unconnected. Of course, it doesn't have to be this way. Everything is a software engine that makes physical things smart by connecting them to the web. It means that any product can have its own digital profile, just like we do on social networks, which means you can connect with the things you own in a smarter way. Like warranties and manuals, or your camera suggesting where and when to get the perfect shots. Like a medicine bottle that reminds you when it's time to take the pills. Like a washing machine that can recommend a trusted local service agent when it needs fixing. If you're a brand, this means you can have direct one-to-one relationships with your customers through your products. And physical products can transmit a stream of data analytics based on how they are made, sold, and used. In short, Everything's technology connects products to the web to connect them more cleverly to people's lives, making brands come closer, making businesses smarter. Everything. Make products smart.
So I think that's one of the key things that I just wanted to call out was, our whole business is based around making products connect more cleverly to the consumer, right? So the question that we face all the time is, how do we actually create that connection between the user and the product? And I'll get into that in a little bit more. Some of the brands that we work with, the only reason why I put this in here was because I just wanted to say that, from a market standpoint, I think what I've seen Most of the draw in terms of connecting identities with products has been a lot in the fast-moving consumer goods market. So we do a lot of work with wines and spirits companies, with food companies, things like that. We do some work with kind of consumer durable products, so things like auto parts or washing machines and sometimes devices that are already connected like TVs and smart home devices. But primarily what's driving our business today is from consumables, fast-moving consumable goods, right? So dumb products that you can then make smart. I'll go into some case studies as well. So this is as technical as I'm going to get, because this is as technical as I can get. But the kind of fundamental thing behind what we're doing as a company is making this distinction between the Internet of Things and the Web of Things, right? So there's a lot of companies out there that focus on creating internet connectivity, right? So one of our partners and investors is Cisco, and they spend a lot of time thinking about how to create internet connectivity for street lamps and any type of product that's out there by connecting to one of their hardware devices and routers and getting an IP address for them. It's what do you do after that, right? So it's if you have 100 street lamps out there, how do you create that next level of application? So each one of those things should have its own instance on the web that you can then collect data about that specific thing and collect data about people's identities all connected to that and then create applications around that. So you can see that, from an Internet of Things standpoint, OSI layer, kind of under 4, but then when you get to very specific applications around the Web of Things, we're talking about, 7+ on the OSI. And you can see on the right here some of the different protocols that are being used and the difference between the Internet of Things and the Web of Things. What the platform effectively does is it just makes all this product data and all this identity data available to the developers. So that level of Internet of Things, each one of these blocks is like a stepping stone. So we're providing accessibility to that data. We're providing findability, so the ability to search, the ability to share this data. So making the connections around, people that like Johnny Walker, like Audis, or things like that. That's probably not a great example, but and then being able to compose that. All of that data then is applicable for developers or companies to available, I should say, for developers and companies to build applications on top of. So the cornerstone kind of our company is what we call these active digital identities. So our company is focused on creating the product identity, and I'm going to leave it up to the people in this room to develop the human identities so that we can kind of make that connection. But what an active digital identity is, it's an instance of a thing on the web. So every product has its own ID. Every product has its own metadata attached to it. Every product can have its own human data affiliated with that in terms of who owns this product and how are they using this product. And how we're set up is, we're a platform as a service. It's a big data, scalable environment that can manage kind of billions and billions of these products. So most of our customers are kind of global brand manufacturers, with tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of products kind of all distributed around the world. There's a few ways in how we do the product connection, and I'm just only mentioning this to set up the different technologies that we're using to connect products so that we can marry them with the identity side. But there's a difference between connected products and dumb products, right? So if you have a connected device like a TV that's hooked up to Wi-Fi or a laundry machine that's hooked up to Wi-Fi, that already has connection, so it's much easier to transfer data into the platform. We have some capabilities around putting sensors in, so it could be any kind of sensor, carbon dioxide sensors, light sensors, heat sensors, and have that all fed into the engine as well. But then when we get into things like fast-moving consumable goods, you're talking about putting tags on products typically, whether that be some sort of QR code or an NFC tag. We have some image recognition technology that you can use if you don't want to change your packaging and use the existing barcode and things like that. So that's kind of how we're connecting products to the web. There's a few examples up here because most of these are examples of how companies have actually made that connection. So like, for example, the smart toothbrush. I don't know if anybody has one or has seen that. But it's one thing to create a toothbrush that can then send sensor data about how it's being used, how long it's being used for, but then it's another thing to create an app for a human that will help you brush your teeth better or will understand how you're using your product, right? And that's kind of the next level of connection that I'm talking about. There's an example here of when to water your plants. That on the upper right is a luggage tracker. Many of you have probably seen a lot of these things already. There's a loyalty card that you just hold over your phone there on the bottom left. I don't know if there's any hockey fans, but this light, that's a hockey light in the middle. And Budweiser did a promotion where every time that your favorite team scored a goal, that light would flash on top of your TV. They were giving those out for free, but that reminded you that it was time to go get a Budweiser. So little kitschy things like that. We've actually got a big project going on with some lighting companies also around smart lighting. I mean, that's no secret. Everybody's been doing things like that. So from the, we've kind of dubbed this term product relationship management, right? So much like customer relationship management, we're now giving companies the ability to manage their products at this kind of minute level. The benefits to the consumer, obviously, once, the importance here is that the consumer needs to be able to identify themselves and connect directly to the product. And with that, you can vary experiences, right? So brands are, if you want to deliver a different experience or a different loyalty program or a different reward to a female aged 20 to 35 that's in New York versus a male, over 50 in Los Angeles, you can do that. And you can turn products on and off all around the world in real time. You can be uploading content in real time. I think one of the benefits that they see is being able to centrally manage all of your assets for a global rollout. So a lot of the companies we work with, they have different brands in different countries. So being able to kind of control all of that information in one place and just give special permissions to someone in Germany to change the language or change some of the imagery, but campaigns and things need to remain the same. That I think is one of the keys. And then obviously from a brand standpoint, getting all the data, understanding all the data. I mean, we anticipate that out of the over 3 trillion consumer goods that are made every year, 500 billion of those are probably connectable in some way, right? And that's factoring in, we're not talking about connecting a piece of, a stick of gum because it's going to be too, not economically feasible to do that, but things that are really connectable, things that have the margins to support it. So really big opportunity there. Like I said before, so how it works, like I said, we focus on the product ID side. So we're pretty technology agnostic in terms of how you make that connection with the product. So like I said, if you use a barcode or the existing product itself, image recognition, whether you want to embed a chip in it and communicate through Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, or if you want to use a 2D barcode or an NFC tag, we easily make that connection to the product. I think where this group is probably more interested is how to take this personal ID and get that into the cloud as well, right? So to date, we've been using a lot of social media websites, so people can check in using Facebook, people can check in using Google+, or their Twitter accounts. But we have some customers that are also using their supply chain tracking numbers or employee numbers, some customer numbers. We work with a couple airlines that are using ticket numbers to identify their consumers and which seat they're sitting in and things like that. But the idea being that all of this data, so the product data, the consumer data, or the user data, gets dumped into the engine, and all of that gets determined. The engine determines what experience to deliver, on a very custom basis. Won't go into this too much, but this is just how we create the product. Are these materials going to be available to everybody after? Okay. So I won't go through this, but it's a little bit more about how we create the product identities. Very secure. We use short URL dynamic redirection services to create that. This is kind of the process that it takes. I know it's a little bit hard to see, but how we would work with these third-party delegated identity authorization services. So a consumer here on the left, connects with their mobile app. The mobile app or the native app identifies the product. It sends a message to the cloud, whether it's our cloud or some of these other cloud services. The way we use is through this short URL format. The cloud then triggers the user authorization back to the mobile app. It then asks for you to check in using Facebook or check in using some sort of other ID. And then that's when it would go to the authentication authority, right? So some of the companies that are in this room here, the authorization authority would then send the user key back to the app. So everything at that point is done in the app, and then sends it back to the cloud, authenticates the user, authenticates the product, and then it can then deliver the experience that you set it to. This is the code, actually. My CTO made me put this in there because he likes how simple and elegant that it is. But this API controls everything from our ScanThing application all the way to that process that you just saw around authenticating users and authenticating process. So it's very buttoned up, very tight. I wanted to go into, so now I wanted to go into just how do you create applications around this, right? When we're working with our customers, the first step always is to kind of define the application. So, if you ask any brand out there, they will always have the top 5 kind of lists of things that they want to solve. So for laundry detergent, it's dosage, right? For laundry machines, it's energy consumption, things like that. So what we found is that in the market, most things fall in 3 categories, really. So one is around customer engagement. So how do I get better loyalty? How do I engage the consumer more after purchase? How can I influence people at the shelf? That's the first case. The second case is around tracking and analytics, particularly around product authentication. So, we work with a lot of wines and spirits manufacturers. A big problem for them is, counterfeit whiskey in Asia, particularly. So how can we get our field forces out there authenticating products in the market? How can we give consumers the opportunity to authenticate a product at the shelf so that they know what they're buying is a real product? And then the third area is around connected products. So this is putting sensors. There's a little picture here. We did a project for Dom Perignon. And that's a button that they put at the Savoy Hotel in London. And so their vow, and this was a consumer engagement gimmick, was you press that button after you check in, and within 5 minutes, they'll deliver a bottle of champagne to your room, right? So that pilot's in progress now, so I can't attest to how well it's doing. But those are kind of the 3 main areas that we're seeing. Some examples in case studies. Diageo is one of our biggest customers. They they're using image recognition and barcode technology for a lot of their products, as well as putting QR codes on many of their products around the world to deliver a Father's Day campaign. So what they're enabling their consumers to do is pick up a bottle of whiskey for Father's Day, identify yourself as the owner of that bottle, attach a personalized video, a customized video for your father, and then gift it to your father. Your father can then go and scan that product. That video is now attached to that bottle, and then the father can receive that video. Or more likely, you're teaching your father how to scan that product. So that's one use case. They're also using it for product authentication, so enabling their field force to go out into the market, identify themselves as a field force member specifically, and then determine if that bottle is real or not. There's some NFC work that we did with Red Bull. The Mondelez one I would call out also. That's a Cadbury bar. That's a 100-gram Cadbury bar. And they found that they're putting unique codes on their bars, primarily to kind of build loyalty and change consumer behavior. So it's an interesting case. I'm not from Canada, and I apologize if anybody is. I'm not making fun of Canada. But apparently one of the big problems that Cadbury has is that women who are their target market for Cadbury bars don't like to share their chocolate, which is weird because Canadians typically are so nice. But so one of the things that they wanted to do was they wanted to reward consumers by changing their behavior, right? So if I'm a woman in their target range, and I want you to share your bar, if I have a unique code on that bar, if you get 3 of your friends or 2 of your friends in your social network to scan that very same bar, I will know that you've done that. At least people are touching it, holding it, and things like that. And then they'll give you a reward in some way, right? Like a coupon or enter you in a contest or something like that. It's useful for consumer goods that want to launch new products, right? So I know exactly who you are. I know that you would like these 2 flavors of candy bars. So go out into the store and scan these 2 flavors, and we'll give you one of them for free, kind of things, right? So it's really about influencing people at the shelf, trying to gain market share. That way. I already talked through the Dom Perignon example. You know what? I will bring that up with them. So that's creating identity on products. We do have some proprietary software I won't get into, but it's there for you to read it. But it does make it available to scan QR codes and use image recognition from a mobile web browser rather than requiring somebody to download an application. And then for those products that you want to put a sensor in or put a chip in, there's some information here. And so here's where you're looking at some of these chipsets like Arduino and Flyport from OpenPicus and things like that. So this is where we come to here, right? So the third step in connecting any product is to figure out how to make that connection between the consumer. Now, to date, a lot of our customers have used social media. So whether it's your Twitter password, your Facebook password, I guess the next step for us is to start thinking about, well, how can we leverage a lot of these business identities? So, intranet information, customer service information, mobile phone numbers, things like that, and make sure that those are integrated with the engine so that we can create experiences around those as well. Also important to identity is, once you've created this experience, how do you manage it, right? So I want the experiences for Paul to be very different than the experience for me. And so, we need dashboards and we need accessibility tools to go in and be able to upload specific content, to manage the content, to be able to, change content on the fly, to recall products, all these different types of things. And then, of course, from a data analytics standpoint, I'm not sure how many of you out there work in this space, but this is also key for us, right? So being able to track specific consumers, groups of consumers, employees of companies in real time, where, how these products are being scanned, how they're being used, getting instant feedback, things like that. That's just a summary of. Is this time right? Yeah. So I would just like to leave you with, I've talked a lot about using social media and how our customers are using that, but I wanted to just leave you with some thought starters on, what's beyond social media identities. So like I mentioned, imagine using your customer identity to, use your insurance account ID to register all the products in your home for insurance purposes, or use your mobile phone number, as a retention tool to my Verizon account to scan products and manage all the registrations and warranties that are of the products that are in my home, or using my bank account number to access very personalized digital services and things and financial rewards for myself. And then, of course, from the corporate user identity, a couple interesting things here. I think that we're already doing this a little bit with Diageo, but enabling a field force employee, so identifying that you do work for a certain company and give you a different experience than if a consumer was to go up and scan the same code. And then, I mentioned before, one of the values of centrally managing these distributed campaigns is using kind of these existing hierarchies in corporate intranets. So I know that if you're an employee in Germany, I'm going to give you certain access and certain permissions to access experiences or change experiences. And if you're a global head of marketing, then you're going to have access to a lot more data and things like that. So that was just some of the ideas. I'll be around after if you guys want to have any more questions.